Hi everyone, Anahita Rao, and I'm here today to speak about a topic that I quite like and I have done some research on as well. So we're going to speak about Upachaya houses and how to make them work for you. So what are Upachaya houses? Houses 3, 6, 10 and 11 are called the Upachaya houses. What does Upachaya mean? It means improvement, growth, progress. Now, of course, the most obvious question you may ask is, how do the Dushtana houses, Dushtana means suffering, usually, and those are the third and, well, the third is a mild Dushtana, but the sixth is certainly a Dushtana house. How could they possibly give improvement and growth, or even material prosperity with time? So let's talk about that. Yeah. Well, the reason is simple. The Upachaya houses create an urge. They create a tension in your life, which drives you to improve your situation. I mean, would you improve your life and experience growth at all if it was going in a relaxed, predictable fashion? No, probably not. Well, these houses have a competitive edge to them, which pushes you to improve, making a person opportunistic and risk-taking, especially during their dashas. This is why natural malefics like Mars, Saturn, Rahu do very well in these houses and give the power to overcome difficulties. The energies of the malefics, the aggression, persistence, determination, willpower, are gradually harnessed and eventually pay big dividends if they're functioning well, of course. The Masic qualities are in tune with the nature of the Upachaya houses, so malefics are very, very compatible here. Now let's take this from another angle. There are 4 aims in life. First, there is the Dharma Trikona, represented by 1, 5, 9 houses and their respective lords. Second, there is the Artha Trikona, which is all about material achievement and recognition, represented by 2, 6, 10 houses and their lords. Third is Kama Trikona, represented by 3, 7, 11 houses and their lords, which is all about the fulfillment of desire. And finally, fourth is Moksha Trikona, represented by 4, 8, 12 houses and their respective lords. These are the ones that liberate the soul from the bindings of earthly karma. They deal with the past, fear-based emotions, and the essence of the soul, in fact. Now, if we look at it closely, we can group this into 2 types of growth, Artha and Kama, dealing with materialistic desire, growth, and fulfillment. Whereas Dharma and Moksha deal with spiritual and religious concerns of life. Now, from Artha and Kama, if we exclude the 2 Maraka houses, 2 and 7, we get the Upachaya houses, 3, 6, 10, and 11. So let's focus on these and dig into it a little bit more. So, first one, the third. Now, desire is born in the 3rd house. In the 6th, these desires are progressed and they face challenges and obstacles in the form of competition. In the 10th, one acts upon them, and in the 11th, one gets the fulfillment. So what's the key feature here? Well, for one thing, these houses need to be working together. And more importantly, you need to take action. If we take the 10th house out of the equation, then these houses become what's labeled as Upachaya houses, or the evil group, composed of 3, 6, and 11. Why evil? Well, the group of 3, the 3rd house, the 6th house, and the 11th house represent the evil factors in life. Desire, anger, and greed, respectively. Remember, we're speaking about an age when these qualities were regarded as socially unacceptable and therefore evil. We're no longer in that age, but that is when this was written. So you have to put that into context a little bit. Now, we need to understand, more importantly, for our day and age and for our benefit, how can we turn a potentially harmful house in our favor? And the key is the 10th house and the 10th Lord. It's the 10th house that is considered to be the zenith of human activity, representing karmas that are done by you through action, to some degree through speech, in this birth. 3rd house is 6 from the 10th. Here 6 representing success in competition. 6th is 9th from the 10th, representing luck and fame. And 11th is 2nd of the 10th house, which is wealth, family, speech. So this highlights the importance of the 10th house again. Karma alone can give or take one's desires to their ultimate goal, to their ultimate fulfillment. Now let's look at them closely. 3rd and 6th are naturally owned by Mercury, and the 3rd, of course, as I mentioned, is considered a mild Ishtana. So it may or may not be benefic, depends how it's working in your chart. 6 is an actual Ishtana house, probably the most difficult of all 3. We're not going to get into the 8th house here. And the 10th and the 11th houses are both naturally owned by Saturn. Sun, Mars, Saturn, Rahu, or Ketu. Placed in an Upachaya house under the aspects of benefics can grant fortunate results on the material plane. And most often, the expansion that it brings is very quick. Often a lucky reversal of fortunes can happen here. The 3rd house is where you will find the courage, the boldness, the ability to work with other people, and the discrimination to take risks. On a purely material plane, desire for anything is first created in the 3rd house, which is a part of the Kama Trikona we talked about. And to convert this desire into a process, a good Mercury will be helpful in your birth chart. It's that part of intelligence where personal skills are developed. It's vital for growth and physical development, and the results, whether they're good or bad, manifest very quickly here. Because again, Mercury, things happen very quickly with Mercury. Using the principle again of Bhavat, it's the 2nd house and the 8th from the 8th house. It's the 2nd of the 2nd house and 8th from the 8th house. So in this way we can also see the actual wealth you can receive from your family and legacies here. It's of course the house that we look at for younger siblings. The main Karaka also has to be examined here to see whether it's functioning well, and that would be Mars. In fact, if Mars is too strong in an Upachaya house, then it may not benefit the sibling, but will be good for the person themselves. One more thing that we can see from a strong 3rd house actually is the promise of progeny, of childbirth. 3rd house reveals whether one has the ability and vitality to produce a child, as the strength of the 3rd house is essential to fulfill the promise of having children. If 3rd doesn't have any strength, but the 5th does, then perhaps the child can come through other means like adoption. Since 3rd is 8th from 8th, we can also see longevity here. The 3rd is also, of course, the direct mirror of the ninth house, right across from it. So it represents projection, implementation, and fulfillment of the promises of the ninth house through activities of the third house. Now let's look at the sixth house. This is a challenging house, and you could also even call it the black hole of the horoscope. But I'm not going to get too deeply into that equation there. Others, of course, are the 8th and 12th, also known as Trikonas houses. It's known as a Dusana house and considered more severe than the 12th and less than the 8th. I think it may be more than the 8th, that's debatable, but we'll leave that bit for now. The 6th is the house, it's considered to be the house of losses, of enemies, of debts, of litigations, theft, service, competitions, corruption, disease. All of these things can be seen from the 6th house. The more prominent you are in society, the more enemies you will likely have. So, but then if you have malefics there, you'll have the power to vanquish them and thus ascend. 6th is a second counted from the 5th. It represents the way that you use the creative energies of the 5th, and also how the resources of the 5th are stored and made available to you. The 6th is 12th from the 7th, so too much imbalance here will hit your business and legal partnerships, including your married life. Both Mars and Saturn are Garakas of the 6th house, so you need to examine them to see if the 6th house significations are working well in the chart. Now, let's talk about the strongest and most important Kendra house, which is the 10th house. Also, according to me, the most important Upachaya house. This house is actually only second in importance to Lagna, if you look at the entire chart. So, for instance, if Lagna is weak, and so are the 5th and the 9th houses, but you have a strong 10th house, then you will still have a long and eventful life. Similarly, if the 5th house and Jupiter are weak, but the 10th house and the 10th lord are well placed, then you can still expect to have children. 10th house has to do with karma, that we're here to exhaust, that we're here to spend. 10th is your personal action as an individual in the social and the professional arena. And without it, the other 3 Upachaya houses become a combination of evil houses perpetuated by anger and greed. The center of this house is called the Midhaven, MC, you would have heard of that, the zenith, and literally means the heights to which you can rise in power and prestige. This is the last of the Artha Trikona, the culmination of all of the activities which give your personality and your life some meaning. But hard, sustained efforts of the 10th are required for the fulfillment of desire. The 10th house, we can take several planets as its Garaka, as its significator, including Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. So also important to see how they're placed and whether they're functioning in a high capacity in your chart. Again, you can only convert the nature of the 3, 6, 11, also known as the Trishadya houses, or the evil houses, to Upachaya houses if the lords of the Lagna and the 10th house are strong. Yeah? That's key. Then of course comes the 11th house. This is the purest of the Upachaya, as it represents prosperity, accumulation, success, gains of all kinds. Now, gain here is a broad term, and it can include gain of objective, money, income, longevity, anything earned through one's efforts or karma. All planets here have the potential to bestow riches, material comforts, high status. All planets do well in the 11th. This is the culmination of the Trikona, where your desires are finally fulfilled. Again, kama, the word itself doesn't just mean sexual desire. as we take it to be, especially for the third house signification. But it means all things that make life worth living. Yeah. The things that ease you on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. So naturally, these will mature with time. Thus, the results of this house too improves with age. The classics, of course, don't give importance to desire, as the more desires that are fulfilled for you, the more additional desires are created. And then, of course, the cycle never ends. Hence, it gets the evil connotation of Upachaya houses. Now, if the planets controlling these houses are linked in any way by aspect, conjunction, or in each other's houses, exchange, with some benefic influence, it completely lifts the quality of the horoscope and certainly gives you beneficial results. There are, of course, two conditions which increase the potency of the Upachaya houses, or their lords, their owners, to give positive results. As I mentioned, that's the ascendant lord, the 10th lord. And I think the moon you can also look at to see its strength, because those are quite key features of any birth chart. And of course, as I said, some benefic aspect on these planets or their houses or their lordships. So again, the third house is where you create your karma by exercising active choices between options. You evaluate, you choose, and you decide. You show your courage in facing up to the load of accumulated karma you have, and you choose the actions which might resolve them or create new karma. The sixth is where, of course, you realize the quantum of karma you have created for yourself, or resolved because of the choices that you have made. You then decide to work it out or serve it out. So these two houses are natural houses of Mercury, the database manager of the zodiac. The 10th house helps you intelligently and systematically work out the karma of the 6th house. And finally, the 11th reflects the gains which you have received from all this process. And this is the function of Saturn as the strictest and fairest of the karmic teachers. Jupiter is the chief Garaka of the 11th, being the controller of wealth, expansion, wisdom, fortune, and friends even. Saturn, being the lord of the 11th, the natural 11th, Kalapurush, is also a Garaka of the 11th house. So it makes achievements possible with hard work. All planets give good results here, as I mentioned. Your karma and your mind plays a great role in shaping the workings of the Upachaya houses. These houses will help you fight against the odds and therefore improve your destiny. Through hard work, strong will, and your competitive nature, all significations of the 6th house, you can overcome the obstacles and reach the 10th house that denotes action, which eventually leads to the fulfillment of desire. 11th house. And in this way, the karmic 10th house, if functioning well, in its highest awareness, can impart good actions, good karmas, to effectively turn the Trishadaya nature of the houses into the Upachaya nature, which is full of growth and achievement over time. I would also look at the Upachaya houses from Lagna, Moon, and Arudha Lagna, just to get a full picture. So that's my take on Upachaya houses. Hope you found it useful and hope you found it helpful. If so, don't forget to subscribe, and of course, as usual, feel free to leave your comments below. Thank you, folks. All the best.